Season 2 of Invincible is just around the corner, and what better time to refresh you on Season 1 than right now, especially considering you probably have not rewatched the entire series in a while, if at all. I mean, Episode 1 premiered 2.5 years ago. So now that you've had a few seconds to cope with the fact that youth is a fleeting moment in the grand symphony of the universe, and time marches on without pause, let's get right into the recap of Season 1 of Invincible. But first, we want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Beam Sleep Powder. As an elder millennial with 2 jobs and 2 children, I can tell you that sleep is something that I have heard of but not truly experienced in many years. That is where Beam Sleep Powder comes in. Beam is a sleep aid disguised as a delicious cup of cocoa before bed. There are CBD and non-CBD options, but whichever you choose, Beam is designed to get you to fall asleep fast and stay asleep longer. And to prove that it works, I'm going to drink this entire cup while trying to edit this advertisement. Both my wife and I have used Dream Hot Cocoa about 30 minutes before we crashed for the night, and it has drastically changed the quality of my sleep for the better. I tried the cinnamon hot cocoa flavor, which was great, but they do have a winter chocolate peppermint coming at October 30th that I really want to try because that is right up my alley. We're getting a little sleepy in this advertisement.
But now for the good part. Beam is having their best sale of the year right now. It's 50% off when you use our QR code on the screen and use code CYBER at checkout. Plus you'll even get free shipping when you subscribe. It's their best deal of the year.
Thanks again to Beam for sponsoring this video. Follow the QR code on the screen for 50% off when you use code CYBER at checkout. Now enjoy the rest of the video. The series begins by introducing us to the Mahler twins, who aren't actually twins. Mahler's a criminal mastermind who cloned himself to assist with his various escapades, and neither truly knows who the original is anymore. The two attempt to infiltrate the White House, but are apprehended by the Guardians of the Globe, and the powerful omni-man, Nolan Grayson. Following this, Nolan returns home where he speaks with his son and star of the show, Mark Grayson, about his soon-to-manifest powers. Mark is a seemingly ordinary high school student, however he is living in the shadow of his father, the greatest superhero on the planet and a Viltrumite warrior, a member of an alien race. One day Mark is working his shitty job taking the trash out and he hurls it towards the dumpster, but the bag keeps flying until it is completely out of sight. Mark Grayson has finally inherited his father's superhuman abilities, which come naturally for any and all Viltrumites, an alien race of ultra-powerful humanoids. Now imbued with the power of flight, super strength, and near invulnerability, Mark is ecstatic to follow in his father's footsteps as he and Nolan begin Mark's training. As Mark begins his training, Mark's mother Deborah is concerned that maybe her husband Nolan is pushing Mark a bit too hard. The following day, Mark dons his first homemade superhero suit looking a lot like Peter Parker in Far From Home and decides to try his hand at stopping some crime to blow off steam. Shortly after battling a low-level supercriminal named Titan, his father arrives on the scene and tells Mark he looks ridiculous. So the two visit Omni-Man's tailor, Art Rosenbaum, who designs and constructs super suits for all of the most iconic superheroes. However, Art wouldn't be inspired to make a custom suit for Mark until Mark decides on his superhero name. Mark, expressing concern that he might not have what it takes to become a hero, is reassured by his father that this moment marked the start of a lengthy journey for both of them, and reminded Mark that kids his age often believe they are invincible, but in reality, Mark was actually invincible. Inspired by his father's words, Mark rushes back to Art and tells him that he'd like to be called Invincible. Art makes short work of designing and tailoring a new suit for Mark, and not long after receiving it, Invincible would get the opportunity to test out his abilities against a superhuman threat. Later, at the Guardians of the Globe headquarters, Omni-Man summons all the Guardians so that they could have a team meeting, and he inspires that— no, I'm kidding, he actually murders all of them in cold blood in a move shocking everybody. But Omni-Man does not come out unscathed. He is seriously injured by his former teammates, and he's rushed to the hospital by the Global Defense Agency led by Cecil Stedman. Mark and his mother Deborah arrive to check on Nolan, who is in critical condition. However, Mark is forced to leave as the city is being invaded by an alien race known as the Flaxans. Mark valiantly attempts to battle them off, but cannot stand against the entire might of the Flaxan army alone, and that's when the Teen Team arrive to help. Adam Eve, Rexplode, Robot, and Dupli-Kate all battle alongside Mark to drive off the Flaxan invasion. The following day, Mark recognizes that fellow classmate Samantha Eve Wilkins is actually Teen Team member Adam Eve, and he immediately breaks the first rule of being a superhero and tells her his secret identity. Eve then introduces Mark to the rest of the Teen Team. This causes some drama between Mark's best friend William as well as Amber, a girl who attends their high school that Mark likes, as well as some issues between Mark, Eve, and her boyfriend Rexplode, who begins to become jealous of Mark immediately. And come on, let's face it, who wouldn't? Look at this guy. Several days later, the Flaxan army returns even more powerful than they were previously. However, the Teen Team is yet again able to defeat them, this time by destroying time bracelets on their wrists that cause them to rapidly age. Meanwhile, Cecil Stedman and the Global Defense Agency, with the help of a demon detective known as Damien Darkblood, continue to investigate the deaths of the Guardians of the Globe. It's a very slow process. By this point, Omni-Man recovers from his battle with the Guardians, and he's discharged from the hospital. Back at home, Nolan is visited by Cecil Stedman, who tells him about a being approaching from Mars who Cecil wants Omni-Man to stop. However, Debbie would not allow it, considering he was just almost killed, so Mark is sent in Nolan's stead. Not great parenting, but fine. Mark takes a deep breath, flies out into space, and meets an alien. This alien, named Alan, was an evaluation officer from the Coalition of Planets who visits Earth regularly to ensure that they have someone strong enough to protect them from the various threats of the galaxy. Mark and Alan end up chatting, and they learn that Alan had been monitoring the wrong planet for years. He was watching over Earth when he was supposed to be looking over a planet named Urath. Embarrassed, Alan leaves to go report his folly back to the Coalition of Worlds. Back on Earth, Nolan is confronted by Cecil about the Guardian's death, and Omni-Man lies to him, claiming he never saw the assailant. Cecil is increasingly unnerved by Omni-Man, who he can tell is lying about something. The Flaxan army attacks for a third time, and the Teen Team is dispatched to handle the threat. However, the Flaxans are even stronger this time, and if not for Omni-Man's intervention, the Teen Team probably would have been defeated. To end this threat once and for all, Omni-Man travels to the Flaxan homeworld and destroys it to prevent any further incursions, showing again just how ruthless he is. At the collective funeral for the Guardians of the Globe, Cecil approaches the leader of the Teen Team, Robot, and requests that Robot become the leader of the Guardians and tasks him with assembling a brand new team. Now for some fun relationship stuff. Back at home, Mark calls Amber and asks her to study with him. Meanwhile, Eve catches her boyfriend Rex committing the fumble of the century by cheating on her with Dupli-Kate. Not long after that, Robot begins tryouts for the new Guardians and requests that Invincible join. However, he declines, stating that it would make more sense for his father to train him. And it does. They're the two most powerful beings on the planet. It's why Goku always trains with Vegeta instead of going back and hanging out with Master Roshi. Mark then flies home to meet with Amber, and after a long day of tryouts, Robot decides on the new Guardians of the Globe. Black Samson, Shrinking Ray, Dupli-Kate, Monster Girl, and Rexplode, with Robot as the leader. Back at the Grayson household, Cecil teleports in to ask Mark for his help with a supervillain named Doc Seismic. Mark then excuses himself to Amber and meets up with Eve to defeat Seismic. After this battle, Mark speeds home to try and make things right with Amber in a classic Spider-Man-like scenario. Later that night, Rex tries to apologize to Eve, who is having absolutely none of it. She flies off to confide in Mark, but finds him making out with Amber, so she leaves. All in all, just massive fumbles from everybody in the cast. Hey look, it's the Mahler twins again, and they're attempting to escape from their high-security cells, and they're pretty much mostly successful. However, one of them dies, and as the other one uses their body as a meat shield to save himself, we find out that Robot actually assisted in their escape for some unknown reason. Damien Darkblood arrives at the Graysons' home to interrogate Debbie. When Nolan comes downstairs and turns on the light, Damien disappears. However, Nolan can feel his presence. Nolan and Mark continue their training as Debbie searches for more information on Damien Darkblood. Nolan eventually visits Darkblood, confronting him about scaring his wife, and Damien coolly responds,
"You murdered 7 people."
Which Nolan, of course, denies because he's not an idiot. Cecil arrives back at the Graysons' home and asks Nolan to supervise NASA astronauts who are making their journey from Earth to Mars, but Nolan declines. Overhearing the conversation, Mark again volunteers. Meanwhile, Mahler is able to successfully clone himself yet again while Robot watches them through a hidden camera like the weird creep that he is. Mark is tasked with monitoring the space shuttle flying towards Mars. After landing, the astronauts are abducted and Mark has no clue where they went, so he goes looking for them, but he too gets captured and brought to the leader of the Martians, where he locates the 4 missing astronauts. There, Mark learns of a Martian secret invasion, but not the bad one that Marvel made. This one's good.
Ooh, you kiss your mother with that mouth?
This invasion is by an alien race of parasitic organisms known as the Sequids, who have the ability to take over host bodies. If they escape Mars, they are going to take over the galaxy. Now, the group of astronauts and Mark are able to escape Mars, but they are unaware that one of the astronauts is already infected by a Sequid when they board the ship to return. Eventually, Cecil becomes fed up with Damien Darkblood's investigation, so he uses some dark magic to send the demon back to hell, which is great, because now we can stop talking about him forever, hopefully.
Go fuck yourself, Darkblood.
As Mark tries to adjust to life as a superhero, his personal life begins to fall apart, as it typically does with almost every superhero ever. His grades slip, and his relationship with Amber has tumultuous ups and downs due to his, other lifestyle. Mark's mother continues her suspicion about Nolan and also continues to investigate the deaths of the Guardians. Mark is then contacted by Titan, the first villain Mark tried to fight on his own when he was in his homemade costume. Titan asks Mark to help him get rid of a criminal kingpin named Machine Head. Titan and Mark break into the compound and fight Machine Head's forces and get absolutely destroyed by them. Chief among Machine Head's forces is the GOAT Battle Beast, one of the most powerful characters in the series. The Guardians arrive to assist Mark and Titan and are mostly successful at repelling the minor league villains, but Battle Beast proves to be too strong for the entire collective.
You're a victim!
Here we go, CSI.
Battle Beast brutally beats Mark, Monster Girl, Black Samson, and then flees after not viewing anybody left there to be a significant enough threat to warrant his time. The Global Defense Agency arrives to save the team members closest to death, and slowly but surely the team members all recover over a period of days and weeks. Except Black Samson, he's down for a while. Mark goes with Will and Amber to a local college for a campus visit, and while attending is attacked by a cyborg called a Reaniman. Mark springs into action to defend the public, and during this battle, William identifies that Mark is invincible. Wow, congratulations, you did it. You're the best at solving mysteries. Later that night, William's boyfriend Rick is kidnapped by the creator of the Reaniman, D.A. Sinclair. William tries to track down Rick, but is captured, leaving old Mark Grayson to come in and clean up that mess too. Mark is able to find Rick, who is now a cyborg, and the two battle D.A. Sinclair, ending the threat. Rick is left with the Global Defense Agency to recover as much as he can, but the damage is very extensive. Deborah eventually corners Nolan and gets him to admit to killing the Guardians. She's taken into custody by Cecil and debriefed, only to find that Cecil has already known this for quite some time. The Mahler twins are revealed to have been hired by Robot to clone him a new flawless body from DNA that Robot stole from Rexplode. This new body was to function as a replacement for his birth body, which was horribly disfigured. Robot transfers his consciousness and memories to the new body, destroys his birth body, and attempts to double-cross the Mahler twins to hide his activities, but he is summoned away and the Mahlers end up escaping. Cecil, now officially done f***ing around, confronts Omni-Man about the deaths of the Guardians. Mark and Eve, who were talking nearby, arrive to see Omni-Man in a battle with an alien beast that Cecil had teleported to the battlefield to wear down Nolan. Mark and Omni-Man battle the beast while Cecil radios Eve to send her back to the Guardians' headquarters. The Mauler twins, who had recently recovered Immortal's dead body after the funeral of the Guardians of the Globe, are shown attempting to reanimate the body of the Immortal to use him as their own personal superhero slave. They have some weird control collar on him, which he violently removes, freeing himself, and he flies off to confront Omni-Man, who had killed him before, and the two battle. Mark ends up defeating the alien beast, and Omni-Man again brutally defeats the Immortal, while the entire fight is being broadcast on TV for the public. Nolan, realizing that the jig is up, tells Mark that they need to talk and goes about explaining the true history of the Viltrumite people to Mark. Nolan explains that the Viltrumites are a conquering warrior species who go from planet to planet, expanding the Viltrum Empire. Viltrumites are incredibly powerful, having been selectively bred over thousands of years. Nolan himself is hundreds or thousands, I don't remember, years old and has done this entire process multiple times before. Usually, one single Viltrumite is powerful enough to conquer an entire world, but Earth had many powerful champions. Nolan decided to sire an offspring with Deborah to help him conquer Earth. But now that Mark's powers have manifested, Nolan decided to do what he was sent to Earth to do decades ago. But Mark is shocked, and he attempts to appeal to the man that he believes his father is. Nolan shrugs off his concerns, stating that being part of the Viltrum Empire is an actual honor. Mark asks about his own mother, Deborah, hoping that that might appeal to the father and husband that Nolan is, and Nolan says that Mark's mother is more of a pet to him than anything else, and the two immediately break into a fight, and the ensuing battle is absolutely brutal. Nolan ruthlessly beats Mark to show him the true depths of his power. The fight moves to the heavily populated city of Chicago, where the damage is massive, killing thousands during the fight. Nolan beats Mark nearly to death before pleading with Mark again to side with him and help conquer Earth. Nolan tries to appeal to Mark by saying that Mark's natural lifespan will be so long that everybody he knows will die multiple times over, asking him, "What will you even have in 500 years?" Mark responds, "I'll still have you, Dad." Moved by a lifetime of memories with Mark and frustrated by the words of his son, Nolan abandons his plans of conquering Earth and leaves the planet while crying like the bitch that he is. Mark, nearly dead, is retrieved by Cecil and over the course of a few weeks recovers from the brutal assault at his father's hands. Mark returns home, but is quickly dispatched to space by Cecil again. Up on the moon, Mark meets up with the homie Alan, who has returned from the Coalition of Worlds to tell him that a Viltrumite lives on Earth. Ooh, scary, you better watch out. And obviously, Mark already knows all about that and he fills him in. The first season ends with Alan asking Mark what he's gonna do now, to which Mark replies,
"Finish high school, I guess."
And that is about it for Season 1 of Invincible and all of the important stuff that happens. We've already seen most of Invincible Season 2, which drops on November 3rd, so make sure to check that out. We're going to have a ton of content coming. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it jogged your memory, and if it did, make sure to like and subscribe and do all that other junk that YouTubers ask you to do. This has been Nick with Key Issues. Thank you again for watching, and remember the motto, Invincible over everything.